Well, they're a great team defense because they have length, because they have intensity, because they have tremendous athleticism. They can really take some chances because Davis is behind there to block shots and to alter shots, as importantly maybe as block them. So to me, that's one of the greatest areas of improvement that they've made, is that team defense is really, really good.
From a competitive standpoint, I mean, you guys are in the Sweet 16, so I know that would make a difference who you were playing, but because it's Kentucky, because it's a rival, I mean, just how much even more focused?
Oh, I think they're focused irregardless. I don't think that has as much to do with it as you might think. I think they know because they've taken every game, all year long for what it is. Hence, the 27 wins that we have. I mean, they've really done a great job with that. I think they know that there's a lot of hype surrounding this. They know that it's at a big time of the year, but most importantly, they know that Kentucky's really good. Well, we have to play great team defense. It's not as much about an individual matchup as it is about how good our team defense is.
They showed a good ability to make three-point shots in the last game. How concerning, I guess, is that? Because the previous 4 they had struggled.
I think they're a very good three-point shooting team. I think they're like us in the sense they don't take a lot. We're a very good three-point shooting team because we don't hunt the three, and they don't either. And we take the three as part of the offense. And we don't take the three as the majority part of it, or the necessity part of the offense. And I think they're the same way. I think they've got excellent shooters. All you have to do is look at the fact that Anthony Davis is taking threes now, and he's a very good rhythm shooter. Darius Miller is really on a roll. Certainly Deron Lamb is an excellent shooter. Marcus Teague is coming off an excellent game. Jones has been able to shoot the three since he got there. So list goes on. And Wiltshire, obviously. Gilchrist can make threes. So you can't look at them and say, well, we're not going to guard this person here, we're not going to guard this person there. You've got to be aware of all of them, and that's an area where they're really, really dangerous because they don't put a player on the floor that can't impact winning on the offensive end or the defensive end. And I think the biggest thing, like, John is such a good coach for a lot of different reasons, but maybe this year, more than ever, that team really, really shares the basketball. And when you look at the talent on that team, and when you look at the upside of that team, and where some of those players are just really scratching the surface of where they're going to be in basketball in their careers, and he's got them moving the ball like that, and that's really, really strong. And I imagine that's hard to do. But he's done a phenomenal job of that. And I think that's one of the reasons they've improved, but also that's one of the reasons they've won so many games, and they'd won so many games in a row going into the Vanderbilt game.
You guys have had a number of really emotional wins this year. The experience of that helps you guys bounce back to getting to even keel a little bit quicker?
I think so. We're going through, the time now is that we're still trying to recover from the West Coast time. We were out there all week, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we went when we did, because it allowed us to really get entrenched in what we were trying to do and get our bodies where it needs to be. Well, there's a flip side to it, and people can think it's easy. It's one thing to get off a plane and have to go about business. It's a whole other thing when you've got all this surrounding them, and they've got to get their bodies back and back in school and be playing at a high level against as good a team as there is in the country. So we've just got to continue to work through the process on that. But they're pretty even-keeled. They're very locked in. Well, there's no question. We've got it. The game was so long ago that they're a different team, and as are we. But because they have a different team, more or less, they have different strengths. So we do have to be able to do different things conceptually and schematically on both sides, offensively and defensively. But these guys are used to that. They're used to adding things. They're used to tweaking things. They know that's a part of what we do, and they really pick that up well. I mean, even the other day, they were so locked in. I know I've referenced this, but to run a play at the end of the game that they'd never practiced, and really to succeed in it 3 times in a row, whether it was Cody scoring, Cody getting fouled, or Victor scoring and getting fouled. And I think when your team has that ability to pick those kind of things up, you can have a little more freedom in practice to really game plan, with that, and then you can adjust a little bit, maybe easier during the game. But with all that being said, this team is so talented. Kentucky is so talented that if there was ever a time where the theme or theory, there's very little room for margin of error, it's this one.
Coach, Daniel Miller, Wish TV, Indianapolis. How important are the fans? Obviously, this game is taking place in Atlanta, and you want to pack the house there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no question, and we have a picture in our locker room from the Georgia Dome when Indiana played the national championship game, and you can see just a sea of red in there then, and would love to see that. And it sounds like we're going to have a lot of fans there, a lot of people making plans to go. I hope the students aren't skipping school too early. I hope they're going to wait and get their classes done and then get in. But I think we'll have a great crowd. I know Kentucky's planning on a great crowd. Xavier's not that far away. I mean, I don't know how Baylor travels, but the bottom line is it's a Sweet 16 game. Our fans have been outstanding, being so with us for so long, you know, inside of this process, obviously for decades, but inside of us with this process that I really hope a lot of them will take the opportunity to go.
You said they're a different team. How are they different? What's the biggest difference between
The team defense, I would say, for one, and then I would just say, like any team, they're better offensively. They've added things. You know, Davis with the shooting. I mean, there's so many different things. They move the ball really well. I mean, so you can tell that they go to their strengths. I think they know what their strengths are, so they really work hard at going to their strengths. And the other thing they're doing right now is they're really finding matchups that they want. And whether it's isolating someone in a post, putting somebody at the elbow, coming off of a dribble handoff, doing a lot more for Miller. And his catch and shoot inside the arc is as good as I've seen it, and he's getting it off quick. I mean, there's a laundry list of where their improvement is, but I would start with the team defense, and then I would say that they're really, really playing to their strengths on offense.
Talk about the improvements that they've made. When Marcus was playing like he did against Iowa State, and even the second half of the first meeting, how much problems does that really present?
Well, he's got great quickness and explosiveness. So if you let him get in the paint and make plays, he can do that with anybody in the country. There's no doubt about that. So you just can't let him in there consistently or even sporadically. You've got to do a great job of keeping the lane covered as much as possible. And that's easier said than done because they're shooters. They're hard to match up with because, like I said, and a lot of teams we play, and certainly most teams at this time of year, they're not putting anybody out on the court that can't make shots, that can't score. Kentucky's got guys that can do a lot of things. I mean, they can rebound the ball at a high level. They can drive it. They've got a lot of multi-dimensional guys in the sense of they can score from three, they can score on a pull-up if they want it, or they can get all the way to the rim. And then you start to add the offensive rebounding abilities of Davis, Gilchrist, Jones. That's really strong. So we're going to have to be completely aware and locked in. Our team defense is going to have to be fantastic. Our weak side defense certainly. We've got to defend penetration as much as possible. So they don't give you many places where you're going to get a break. Good.
You talk a lot about how far in the friendship that you guys have. Just talk a little bit about how it developed and how you guys.
We've been friends for a long time. You know, we've been friends for a long time. I've got a lot of respect for him, even if I didn't know him very well. I would put him up with anybody as far as a basketball coach. And I remember when we were in Conference USA together, and he had come to Memphis, and I learned more watching his game tapes, even when we weren't in competition with him, that helped me in the sense of spacing, misdirection, defensive things, trapping, things of that nature. Just by watching his game tape, it's like we always started, and that was really just I went into that league at 33, I think was my age, and you had Denny Crum, Bob Huggins in that league, Bobby Lutz, and then it was Rick Pitino, John Calipari, guys like that adding into that league. And so, I mean, it was a total clinic every time you watched game tape. And John just continues, I think the biggest thing, he just continues to evolve in so many ways with his basketball. Because for as good as he is and as much talent as he has as a coach and with his team, he's constantly asking questions, looking to adjust, looking to add. And a lot of guys at his level that are on the career path he's had, they wouldn't have to do that. He does. And I think that's one of the reasons that he's such a great coach. And that's a big part of our friendship, is being able to talk basketball and to compare notes and to do those things. And I learn as much from him, watching him coach and watching how he does things with his teams, as much as anybody out there.
You guys are kind of tweet each other back and forth on Twitter and stuff like that over that game and various other things this year. Is that kind of part of your relationship?
No, and you won't see much. I don't plan on doing much of that this week. It's just, it was fun. I'm not that locked into that this week, but it's always interesting watching his tapes. You know, they do different things, and he can play a lot of different ways with that team. But no, sometimes that's just to be combative back and not let it be. But I'm not into all that competition of one-upmanship and stuff like that. I mean, that's not really what our friendship's based on. But if people have fun with it here and there, that's okay too. I mean, I don't have 8 million followers on Twitter like he has, or allegedly has. But see, I tweaked him. So I don't want to try to keep up with all that. Yeah, we put in new offenses on the plane the other day coming back, so that works both ways.
Like I said, they're a different team now than they were in December. How are you guys different and better than you were in December?
I mean, it's a process of going through the season, and you know, we've played 26 games since we played them, so I think that your team evolves a lot of different ways. We've won games a lot of different ways. We've had to come back from some defeats. I think we're better in almost all areas. I think everybody gets. I think it's one of the keys to this program. Player development is ongoing, and they continue to do that. I mean, it was a year ago this Tuesday. I don't remember what the date was, after spring break last year, where we started our individual workouts, and it's just continued to take off. And they work very hard. So guys are adding to their game, and I'd have to really think about what are those things we're better at. But I think we're better at a lot of things.
What did that first win do for this program in terms of confidence or business here?
Well, I think it helped the confidence immensely that they could prepare like they did, that they could play with that kind of intensity, and that they could get the right result out of it. And I think, very importantly, though, I think we learned a lot in that game. I think we learned how we almost squandered it and gave it back because we rushed shots. We made poor decisions. We didn't guard the dribble as well, things of that nature. So that stuff's really, really important. And it always takes a while for a team to learn possession by possession basketball, and how important it is to never get away from where you need to be, get away from what got you to that point. And our team was very young in that game, and we played with tremendous intensity and enthusiasm and did some excellent things, but we were also very young. And I would like to think that in the months' time over that, we've really matured in our decision making and how to finish games, but how to also not let the game, when the game is up for grabs momentum-wise, do a lot more things to get it back.
Tom, I know it's just been a couple of days and you're focusing on the next game, but what has the atmosphere been like since you came back from Portland and the Sweet 16?
I think it's been great. I think it's been fantastic. I haven't been out too much, but I mean, when we got back, it was fantastic. And we had people at the airport. We had people here. I think, again, I was telling a couple friends of mine this. I just really enjoy watching it from the back view now. Like, our players were all up in the front of the plane, and we land, and they could see that there were people waiting outside, and all of a sudden out came the camera phones, and they were all jacked up. And the same thing when we got back here. You know, I wanted them to get off the bus first, so that selfishly, so I could watch them do it. You know, so I could watch them get the reaction. And because once you get outside, you want to thank people for being there and shake their hands and sign autographs. And I wanted to watch them go out and do that. So it's fun to watch it that way. But we've been really locked in here. I mean, we've got a real purpose here, and to go to Atlanta with the right mindset. And they share that. I mean, they're leading the way on that. So I'm really kind of seeing it that way as much as, or probably more than, we ran on campus once. If I have time today, I'll go again. That was nice. People are great, but they're always great. You know, they love this program. So the players would be the better ones to ask about that, probably.
You talked about coming back against NC State and the importance of that one against VCU. With the stakes are so high, you guys did it against VCU. What can that do for this team now?
Well, I just think it's another one. It's another one in a really high pressure, bright spotlight type of situation, and Kentucky's been in those too. So, bottom line, Kentucky's had some games where they've had to come back, where maybe they didn't play as well, and then they find a way to win. So, really, it becomes all about this time of year, how you're playing that night, but how those experiences that you have can help you inside of that game. And then sometimes there's selective moments where they could. I felt like that the other day. It was a great reference point. Because they had done it, and when we were down 7 in that North Carolina State game, and we're coming off 3 rebounds, 3 chances at scoring, it was like we'd finally figured out how to play this game. Then they went out and won it, and a lot of that was the same thing the other day. I mean, when they're locked in, they may need a few reminders here and there, but they're pretty sharp when they're locked in.
Tom, can you just talk a little bit about Anthony Davis and Coach Zeller? Just how good the two are and how they both impact on the court?
Well, they're two different players. So in the sense of Anthony Davis, he's getting better. He's added the jump shot certainly to his game. He's set every block shot record probably that there is for freshmen in college basketball, I think. I mean, he alters shots. He gives his team a lot of confidence to get out and take some chances and really get after the ball because they know he's back there. And you just can't let him roam free. I mean, he's very, very good. And there's just absolutely no way to duplicate how quick he gets up, for a dunk, how quick he can rise. And he's going to be fantastic. You see him getting better throughout the year. Cody, same way, just continued to improve. They're two different players, but they're two young players that got a big part of their team, and they've just continued to improve at an extremely high level. And I don't think Kentucky's had to play without Anthony Davis much this year. And hopefully we won't have to play without Cody much on Friday night.
Is there something you feel like, one or two things you've got to do on Friday night, otherwise it's a really long night?
I don't think like that. I don't think like that. We've got our game plan. I don't think in the terms of it being a long night. I think in the terms of us doing the things that we need to do to be successful in the game and what we need to take away from them.
Talk about the development of Will, not just from last year to this year, but maybe from the first time you saw him in high school to now.
Oh, I think better with the ball. Certainly a better three-point shooter. Way better. And he had a pretty good defensive mindset, but way better of going into really seeing himself as a stopper. He came with the cerebralness. He came with the mid-range. He could offensive rebound. He's got to do even more of that, I think. But he's just an all-around better player. The biggest difference, he's a lot stronger. He's a lot stronger. But he was really well coached by his high school coach, Adam Ross. That's the one thing that you really get with Victor and Will that you don't know as much about because they weren't from Indiana, but they were extremely well coached year-round. Whether it was their high school team or whether it was their summer teams. And extremely. And that helps. And they came in with tremendous work ethics. And I think Will, like Victor, and you didn't ask about Victor, but the two of them are very much the same in the way that since they got to Indiana, they have made Cook Hall a big, big part of their life in the way that they're in there in the office, in Assembly Hall obviously too, but in the summertime especially with Cook Hall. And I think you see the product of their development, the way that they work, and it's not just about practice time for them, it's about the extra time too, and they spend a lot of time at it.
How did you first hear about Will?
We knew his name, but we hadn't done any work. Really, it came from Darren Horn, who was the head coach at South Carolina, worked for us at Marquette, and Mike Hopkins at Syracuse, who'd been recruiting Fab Melo, his teammate. And those were the two guys that probably were helping us before we could help ourselves. They were selling us to Adam Ross. And that's what friends are for, great friends, people that believe in what you're doing. And we just kind of took it from there and got to know Adam and got to know Will in a short period of time. And there was no question. First time we went to see him at a practice, open gym type situation in Florida, when we offered him that day, there was no question. And then we recruited him. It was relatively whirlwind, but he put a lot into the academic decision part of it too, and so it was really easy to sell this school academically.
What was that first practice like after you touched the first time in terms of mindset and that sort of thing?
It was really good. And I tell you, the two that led the way, I said it back then, were Christian and Victor. I mean, not Christian, but Christian and Verdell. Christian and Verdell really led the way. There was nobody that came in that we had to bring back to earth or sequester. I mean, none of that. I mean, they came back in ready to go. But I thought Christian and Verdell that day really stood out and how competitive they were. And it just kind of took off from there. We've had very few bad practices. Today wasn't bad. Today was a sense of we've got to get, Kentucky traveled an hour. We had to go 4.5 hours on a plane and be in 3 different time zones. So we've got to get our bodies back. That's going to take a little time. So we got a lot done today and pushed through it. And I was proud of the way they attacked that, even though I know they're a little tired.
You talked in Portland, I can't remember after which one, just about how this entire experience has made you a better coach, a better person, all those things. Could you elaborate on that? Like, how are you a better coach? How are you a better coach?
Oh, I think it's constant. I think if you're not getting better, it's like everything else. You're getting worse. You owe it to a lot of people to improve. Yourself. You owe it to your family. You owe it to your team. I think, I'm not sure when you coach and when we were having the success at Marquette, I don't think we ever took it for granted. I don't think it ever worked that way. We were always pushing, always pulling, always hungry. But you get here and you find it's a lot harder to get because of what we're dealing with, and things are a lot harder to come by in the sense of winning games and getting your team where it needs to be. And you realize that you've got to be clicking on all cylinders. That it's never just about talent. It's never just about lack of talent. It's about everything being in place. And I think that's what we kept pushing for all the time, is to make sure, okay, as we get this team better, as they keep improving, let's make sure we've got everything moving in the right direction. So when we do get better, we didn't miss it over here, we didn't miss it over there. And I think it's the same way in your life. I don't think there's any question that you've got to have spiritual leadership, and you've got to have it in your own life. You got to have it for your family. You got to have it for your team. I mean, because you're going through so many hard times that have so little to do with the result on the court. And the result on the court is what everybody sees. It's the process, and that's how hard it is to get to that process. And there's got to be belief, and there's absolutely no way around that without, in my mind, without having just an incredible faith and belief in God that He's going to help see you through it, that there's a plan for it, and that you've got to have Him guiding you to build on your tools. And you learn along the way, like I said the other day, that He expects you to do the work. It's not like you come out and say, well, I feel like I'm a better Christian, so things will be easier. No, it doesn't mean anything. It could be harder. It could be a lot harder. But let's not try to figure it out. Let's just make sure we do all the work and we've got everything in place, and that you keep your priorities straight. And I'd like to think that over the last couple of years, we made strides in a lot of areas, and I would think that would be one of them, because you really do realize when you're in some fights like we've been in to build up, that you're certainly not doing it by yourself, and you may not see who's helping you, but He's there. All right, thank you. Yep.